All right. So I think should I do my review first? Of course. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this review, and then Andrew will do his, and then we can discuss the manga for this week. I don't know where to go. That is off center.
Yes, it is.
Oh, there it is.
Let's go a second.
Okay, so I reviewed Wolf's Rain, and I'm gonna talk about the manga and the anime actually, because you'll see. Okay, so the manga, the primary premise is this is a bit in the future. It's not like totally sci-fi, but there are like flying hovercraft things, stuff like that. So it's a bit sci-fi like, and it follows like these four main guys. They're various ages, but I think they're all under like 30-ish. And they're not actually guys, though. They are wolves. And it sounds kind of weird if you think about it to begin with. The idea is that wolves have been extinct in this land, for example. I don't know exactly where it is, but they've been extinct for a couple hundred years now. Or that's the common belief. However, some wolves have learned to disguise themselves as human, and they don't like transform into human during the show. Or during the manga. It's kind of complicated. They're still wolves, but they look like humans, and you don't know why that is. But ignore that because the rest of it is totally amazing, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so you have these main characters, and I'm just gonna say the thing I don't like about this series, I guess, first, and then I'll say everything I like. The characters, for the most part, aren't that likable, and like there's not too much development. I didn't really get attached to any of them, but it's still one of my favorites just because of the storyline and just it's really entertaining and interesting. Another character is this girl. Her name's Cheza, and the wolves in the story are trying to reach paradise. So their world kind of sucks. There's like a lot of thievery. The like nobles who are basically the government, they are bad people. So they want to get to this paradise, which according to legends, only wolves can get there. And this girl is kind of like a science experiment, but they believe that she's like their key to getting into paradise, to finding it, because she was made out of flowers or constructed from flower cells that exist only in paradise. So she's like a major part of the story. They're trying to protect her and such. This is the main villain in the manga. His name's Darsha. And actually, I said the characters weren't very likable before, but I actually liked him, even though he's the bad guy. He has a reason for being the bad guy. So, like, he's not just like, oh, I'm going to take over the world. No, he actually has a good story, too. He's also trying to get into paradise. And that's the only reason he's the bad guy, is because, like, he's the antagonist to the wolves. But honestly, he could have been the main character in the story, too, and it would have been very similar because of his goals are very similar. So like he tries to take Cheza back from the gang of wolves there, and he's one of the royalties, so like he has a lot of like people at his whim, I suppose you could say. And he kills people, so he's cool.
Right.
He's a side character. His name's Quent, and wolves apparently killed his family, so he hunts the wolves. And like people think he's crazy because he just drinks a lot of whiskey, and then he's talking about wolves and how they're out there and they killed my family, and I have to go hunt them with like my numerous guns. However, like he's actually telling the truth, which is kind of funny. And but he's also kind of like a side villain to the wolves because he's constantly shooting at them. So, and he like chases them all around, and he's always there, which is kind of creepy but impressive at the same time. And again, like he has a reason for like being antagonistic, so it's kind of neat that way. Yeah.
I just want to comment how villains tend to be much more interesting when they have a motive or even somewhat sympathetic.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say these two that I mentioned are like extremely. You can empathize with them a lot. So.
Even despite killing people.
Yes. Let's see. Here are some characters who don't appear in the manga but appear in the anime, and I'll talk about the difference, which is basically that the anime is much, much better. So I would not watch the anime and then read the manga. If anything, get a taste of it with the manga and then watch the anime. The reason that the anime is better is just that it's far more detailed and the story's far better. It's kind of dumbed down in the manga version, which I don't know why. The manga is usually better. I think the manga is supposed to be an adaptation of the anime, and they just failed miserably. So, the lady on top, she's actually like the primary villain in the anime, so like they added a whole nother element. Now you can't really sympathize with her. She's just plain evil. And like even the other bad guys don't like her. So like she's like the pinnacle of evilness. And she's also like the richest noble and like has the most power, unfortunately. So the other two, the lady, she like worked on Cheza. Like I said, she's like an experiment. She was created with science out of plant cells. So she's one of her creators. And because the wolves did steal her away, she kind of pursues them. But she's not really a bad guy. He's her love interest. I don't know if they were married, they're divorced, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. But he's in it a lot too. And the reason I really like the series, the anime more than the manga, but both are still interesting. The story is just really compelling. And like I said, like you can sympathize with some of the characters, including the villains, so that's pretty cool. And in addition, there is a lot of action, but there's not too much. It doesn't like take away from the storyline. So I'd give the anime, because it's my favorite anime, it's a 10 out of 10. The manga, if I'm being completely objective about it, probably like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. But I'm not going to be objective about it. So I'm going to give it like a 5 because it's so much worse than the anime. But like I said, like go ahead, read the manga, see if you dig it at all. And if you do, if you find it interesting, then the anime is definitely for you. So are there any questions about it? Walter?
Yeah, which came first, the manga or the anime?
I believe it was the anime, but I'm not sure. But I think it was. And which is kind of strange, actually.
Yeah.
But like they just added so much more is in the anime, and I don't know why maybe he didn't feel like drawing it all in the manga. I'm not sure. Like, but yeah.
Oh, it was the same artist who did both the manga and the
No, I'm just saying the manga artist
Mm.
at least didn't feel like drawing it all. So.
Well, how do you know he just like being minimalistic? There are a lot of people who like being like that too.
Which would be fine if you didn't cut out like most of the story. Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
I have one more thing. Is this related? Is it the person who made this series? Did he make something else really famous? Like, did he Cowboy Bebop or something? You know?
Does anybody know?
I thought
This is actually very similar to Cowboy Bebop, like
Yeah.
just the style. If you like Cowboy Bebop, you will like this.
because I feel like because they showed this on Adult Swim.
They did, yeah.
I wish I could flash the whole thing and see it.
Okay.
Isn't it very short?
The anime, I think, is 24 episodes, but there's like an OVA that you have to watch. It's the ending of it, and that's another like 3 or 4 episodes.
Sure.
But it's pretty short. The manga's 2 volumes, so like you could just read that in like an hour. Yeah.
What's the artist's name?
I don't know.
You don't know?
But it's called Wolf's Rain, so you can look it up. Oh, and also interesting fact. In Japan, wolves have actually been extinct for about 100 years, so like, which I found out after going to Japan. So like, this made this more realistic, and I was like, oh, cool. I had a nerdgasm, yeah. I was like, oh my god, that's actually like accurate. Okay, any other questions?
Negative.
Okay, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
You have like a USB?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
If you don't mind installing that in there.
This
And
does
we're gonna
absolutely
put in
nothing.
the USB. Please ignore any naughty